Record, aren't we? Right, we're live.
Days.
So,
We're live.
we'll start with some introductions. Do you want to go first, Jonny? A little bit about your job and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So
Your name, obviously.
Yeah, my name's Jonny. If you didn't know already, and I've known Joe for it's high school, isn't it? So it's a many year we've known each other. So long-term friends. I work, for those that don't know, I work for a chartered surveyors. So I'm like a data analyst. I do a lot of other things as well in the business, but that's my main role. I've worked there for the last 10 years. So yeah, that's work within the sales team. There's about 7 of us in the team. Wider business is about, we're under an umbrella company, so it's quite a big business. But yeah, we operate from Manchester city centre. So yeah, that's I'd say that's a little bit about me. At my interests, I like running, I like gym. Quite into me self-development at the minute, and I like my walks as well. So yeah, that's me really in a nutshell.
Good. Over to me. So, thanks everyone for tuning in, or if you're watching this a bit later, nice to see you all. So I am Joe. Call me Joseph on a Sunday if you want. It's my Sunday name. So I am an occupational therapist and acceptance and commitment therapist. So I work online and I work with people with anxiety disorders. I have been through the mill myself over the years, right through to childhood, more so to adulthood. Struggled with my own mental health on my own journey. I've made a lot of transformations over the years, and I'm in a very good place now. Hence why I am giving a lot back to people so that they can transform as well. I've been an occupational therapist for about 10 years now. Enjoy it as its challenges, but there's a lot of good I do with people. So that's a little bit about my profession. And obviously we created Jonny. Obviously, Jonny's a very good friend of mine, a school friend, best of friends, part of our group. Share a lot of similarities in terms of our mental health, and we decided to create a men's mental health group last year on Facebook, and it's sort of gone from there really. And then we've led on to do the podcast as well, because we want to give something back so people can take things away and hopefully they can transform. So just to keep it very quickly, my interests. So apart from coaching and doing therapy with people, I like exercising, love my running, love my gym work. I'll be going tonight and doing a weights workout. Love my socials, very sociable person. And I've started doing Krav Maga about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So it's a self-discipline program, I believe, but getting to grips with that, even though I'm absolutely crap at the minute, but hopefully I'll improve. So that's just a little bit about me and Jonny, and we'll tell a little bit more about ourselves, the more podcasts that we do. So I'm going to interview Jonny today because we like to swap roles every week, and we do get guest speakers on as well, but we like to talk about our own journey. So today I'm going to be asking Jonny a little bit about relationships. So we're going to do about a 15 to 20 minute podcast to keep it short and sweet because that's what we like. I like people to tune in and not bore them. Okay, Jonny. So I want to ask you a little bit about relationships and a little bit about your journey and when you first started noticing things and what you did to change.
Yeah, so I was previously in a long-term relationship. So it was sort of from college, as you know. So I was with my ex for about 16 years. and things got tough. I'd say COVID was a big player for a lot of people who struggled throughout that time. But I sort of noticed things when you have your hard times in relationships. You go through your tough times, you have your good times as well. But I went into a state where I was moving along with work, and at home I just didn't feel like there was something off. And sometimes it can be outer environment, inner environment, your surroundings, who you're mixing with, anything, it can be anything really. But yeah, I just noticed that I wasn't enjoying the journey that I was on. I started to resent people, probably pulled away from friends a little bit. Joe, you probably noticed that.
Yeah.
A little bit with family as well. I stopped doing things I enjoyed, and I did a lot of deep work. And I'd say it was well, it's 3 years ago now. Ended the relationship. It was amicable. It still is. We have a child, so obviously it's shared. I have him every other weekend, and I enjoy having him. Love the time that I have with my son, and it hasn't been easy from that step, that moment I took, and I always go back to the conversation I had with you actually, Joe. I remember that very, very, well, 3 years ago. It was longer, 3 years ago now, but yeah, I made that decision, and even though I knew it was a right decision, I didn't know how hard that would be. So moving out, finding a place on my own, leaving the family home, moving back, to a different area, and yeah, just basically starting again. Do you know what I mean? I think I left with a TV and my clothes, and what can you say with that? It's not easy at all. But I had a good network of people around me, Joe included in that, and my family have been there. And yeah, it's took time. I'm finding myself now, finding my feet a little bit of stability. But after the first few months of living on my own, from you've moved out and then you've moved in with your spouse, I've never lived on my own. So that was one of the biggest things. Yeah, definitely. And there was a struggle. There was a big struggle there at first. And then I started to find myself a little bit, and I started to throw myself into uncomfortable situations and places. And I started to grow, and I started to notice the change in me and how I was feeling. And yeah, I just went with that. I joined a run club back then.
So that changed things, did it? Joining a
community, socializing, getting out there. I actually, it wasn't all rosy. I went for a bit of a drinking spell, as I mean, many of the guys can probably relate to.
Yeah.
I was having a few heavy sessions, and I knew that needs to change.
Why did you do that, Johnny? And how did you get out of that? Just so we can help the viewers.
Yeah, I did it to escape how I was feeling.
Okay.
But then I'd noticed that, long term, it wasn't the right thing to do. So if I wanted to move forward, I'd have to.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And thoughts and feelings would be worse after that. And I felt like I was procrastinating.
Yeah.
So I knew things would have to change. And I found that when I joined the run club that I was at the time, I was enjoying the social side, but also the fitness, meeting new people, putting myself out there a little bit. And yeah, I just really enjoyed that. And that was something in my week I'd look forward to doing and going to. I also, at the time of when I moved out and broke up with my ex, there was other news as well, bad news within the family, which Joe's aware of. So I had, my mum was quite ill. So I found that, for me to be in the right headspace, I couldn't be drinking the way I was, and I needed to be there for her and my family, and I found that it's awful, and it's one of them things that you don't ever think you're going to go through, but when it happens, you have to just take it day by day. Really, take it slow.
And what about when you get a little? Because it's been a bit of a journey for you, hasn't it? What about when you get a little hiccup along the way? Because you've obviously, you're having to deal with your mum's illness. You've got
Yeah.
you've got Lewis, your little, and worrying about that. And
Mm.
how do you deal with hiccups if you get something in the?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, dealing with the hiccups, it's not, you could reach out and speak to someone. I would definitely recommend that. Don't hold it in, because it isn't good. Writing, keeping a diary of things. I know we spoke about this in the past. It's not for everyone, but I find that it really helped me to keep a dialogue of how I was feeling, and I'd say just open up to people, and don't be afraid of that. It's not a weakness. Opening up, as guys, we always think we have to be the tough one and to hold everything together. Doesn't work like that. We're not living in a previous generation where we were told to be strong and carry on. The world's changed massively.
Yeah, and I'd say with you've gone from knowing you for such a long time. You've gone from a guy that liked to stay within his comfort zone to regularly now stepping out of his comfort zone. How have you done that? How have you done that? That's incredible. Like,
cheers. I'd say just I try new things all the time now, and I get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's heard that phrase, but yeah, just pushing yourself a little bit outside your limit, and then you start realizing that you can do things, and people don't listen to other people. If you think you can do something, go and achieve that, and that's what I found. I've improved with me running. Joe's helped me with in the gym as well, with me physique. I couldn't for a long time. I couldn't put weight on, could I? I couldn't put weight on. I was struggling to maintain. I'd say my metabolism was off, and I wasn't eating the right foods. So I started to dial it down and look at what I was, my intake and my fitness, everything around it, and sleep as well. I'm a big advocate of sleep.
You are a big advocate for sleep, yeah.
Yes, I love it.
You say about sleep, because that's a big thing for you. If you're speaking to the viewers now, like, I've got some education from you on sleep, so
well, that's
secret,
it, isn't it? My secret is
sleep mask.
sleep master here. Sleep
Yeah.
mask does help, and I know you've obviously using that yourself now, with tears as well.
Yeah, that's a game changer. Get a sleep mask if you're watching. Get a sleep mask, or a game changer.
That's it. Sleep mask, vitamins as well. I mean, I take zinc, magnesium now. Unfortunately, doesn't do anything for the hair, but what can you say?
Yeah, each mate.
But no, it's that's what I started to do. I started to look inwards, and obviously I could what was in my control.
Yeah.
So I tried wasting time.
Rewind a little bit. Let's rewind a little bit. So when you split up in your long-term relationship, that's a big decision, isn't it? And like, what if someone's watching now and they're kind of in a similar situation with you, where that they're not happy in the relationship, and they think things need to change. There's children involved, but what's been important is that you've kept things amicable, and you've still got that friendship for your child as well. Like, how did you do that? I mean, you were fair as well, I'd say. And how did you do that? And what would you say to someone that's watching now to kind of help them if they're in a similar situation to you?
Yeah, I'd say that there needs to be a lot of communication between the two of you in that relationship, and the right decision could be therapy. Going down that route and talking openly about it, just putting it aside and saying, we'll talk about it in a day. That won't work. You need to sit down with your spouse, partner, and go through things and decide where your future lies. With kids, without kids, a house, whatever it may be. And yeah, I'd say if you're not happy in something, then something needs to change, because you'll always be unhappy. If you're feeling like that now, then think yourself in 5 to 10 years. And that's what I did with myself. And I thought I could be sat here in 5 years in the same situation, feeling the same way. And for me, that wasn't the case.
And you could have split up 5, 10, 15 years later, and that relationship you've got with your ex-partner might not have been amicable, because you might have grown more to dislike each other. And
yeah,
absolutely. So it swings both ways, doesn't it? I think it's like you said, it's about communication, and if you can't resolve that communication,
absolutely,
it's probably time to reconsider the relationship. Would you say as well? No, I speak to a lot of couples with children, and one of the problems is I understand it's children, you put them first, but would you say that they need it's making time for each other as well, a bit of time away from the kids, and even if it's just an hour out your week?
It's interesting. I was actually it's funny you should say that. I was actually talking to a girl at work, funnily enough, yesterday, and she was basically saying that when they get home, they make tea for the kids, and she's got young kids, and she say, I always like making their tea first, and then she sits down with a partner late in the evening when they're not rushing, and they have that quality time together. And I went, I love that. Absolutely love that. That is the key.
Yeah.
Not every time can we go out spending quality time around a nice meal. Doesn't have to be that. Just 1 hour a week with your partner, sitting down and going through everything. Nobody else involved, just you two, and working on that relationship. And that's what it takes, for a relationship to work.
And what would you say to someone like that's worried about being on their own and not meeting anyone again? That's in the back of your mind. I've been there. That's always in the back of your mind. You think you might not meet anyone. You've left a long term.
You will. It's your mind, isn't it?
That's all you know, don't you? At that time. So what would you say?
Yeah, well, that's it, and that's all you'll ever know. Once you're in that relationship, and it opened my eyes once I left the relationship, and you think, when is the time right? Will you meet someone? And it all happens within time, once you start doing that inner work, on yourself.
Confidence.
And you'll start seeing differences. Confidence, and the people around you, you'll start to notice. So it was, I didn't feel worthy for a lot of the time. I didn't feel like people were interested in me. But then I did a lot of work, on that. And it does take time. It's not going to happen in a month, 2 months. Look at me, I'm 3 years down the line. I'm still on my journey, wherever that may be. Still single at the moment, but I've met people, and so who knows? But I just keep working on myself, and obviously my lads, he's like, the time I get to spend with him, he's priority as well. So, but in and around that, in work, out of work, it does take time. But relationships aren't easy, and you could be you could be young with kids, you could be in your mid-30s without kids in a relationship. It still doesn't mean, it's still hard. It's still hard, sort of thing. So, you just take it a day at a time. But anyone that's struggling out there, there's always someone to speak to if you're having a difficult time.
What would you say?
So
If we,
yeah,
I say we'll probably conclude it at that. But what would you say to anyone that's kind
yeah.
of where you were 3 years ago and looking to make some changes, whether that's just to change the relationship, or because there's a lot of factors around work, isn't there, and your mental health, and what would you say to them?
Yeah.
Communication, talk.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at that time, I wouldn't have ever. You wouldn't have ever said to me, 3 years down the line, this is what you've achieved. This is what you've done. It's a big decision. That's why a lot of people fear making it. But once the fear of change becomes bigger, than the fear of staying in the same situation, that is when you'll go into change, and that is what I wanted at the time, was change. And I was the only one that was going to do that. Someone wasn't going to drag me out of that relationship,
And change is always going to feel uncomfortable, no matter what you do.
Yeah,
If you
absolutely.
don't step out of your if you don't step out of your comfort zone, things won't change. Every circumstance, situation, and your brain's trying to keep you safe, and it will create fear. It will make you feel comfortable. It will give you difficult thoughts and feelings, but you can step out that uncomfortable feeling in that zone. Things will pass, and things will change in time, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. There's bright days ahead, happy days. But no, thanks a lot.
No, thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna head off to the gym now and get a chest workout in, and then I'm gonna sleep like a baby tonight, I think. What about you?
Yeah, you will. I'm going to have a nice relaxing evening. Hopefully England have won. England's winning. So yeah, I'll chill out and probably have a catch up with my mum, I reckon. So, getting on.
Sending me best.
Right,
Thanks everyone for watching. Jonny, see you later.
Cheers, guys. Any questions? Drop them in the comments. Nice one.